Hey everybody, here is the follow-up video that I said I was going to do. So let's go ahead and get started. Basically what I want to talk about in this one is just the slight kind of a workaround that I'm going to use for the busing issues. I'll try to make it fast, but you know me, that's absolutely impossible, so get something to drink, get something to eat, sit back, because it's probably going to take me 3 times longer than what it should for me to explain this to you. So let's go ahead and get started. Um, what you'll remember from the last video, and if you haven't seen it, please go watch that one first because I'm going to fly through things assuming you already know what they are. If I added a bus channel, you'll remember, look at what it does to all my bus outputs. All of my outputs get pointed to this bus channel down here. That's not good, so let's get rid of this. So again, because I use VE Pro hosting every one of my instruments, it considers, S1 is considering every single track I have one instrument, and that's what the problem is with this. So we know that the folder track busing, as cool as it is, isn't going to work if you're doing what I'm doing or using multi-timbral. So I spent the other night looking around at every possible way to make a bus within S1, and actually there's a good 3 or 4 ways to do it. So you basically got key command shortcut styles for the different kinds of buses, such as the folder track version and whatnot. And then you also have the manual ones, which is click here and create the folder. You have the other one, which I showed you also doesn't work for this type of a workflow, which is add bus for selected tracks. When I do that, you can already tell right away that it's not going to work. Because if you notice when it created this bus, because I'm working with VE Pro hosting everything, it considers output number 1 and 2 my primary output. So S1 sees it as basically the host output. So you'll notice that it stuck it right next to my outputs number 1 and 2. And this is the problem. This one is a problem one, just like this one is, where if you start moving them around, it starts playing games, which I showed you in the other video, and you can watch again if you don't remember. It starts playing games with your arrange tracks, and it's very dangerous for your workflow and just for your project in that matter. You accidentally save and you move on, and you don't even realize you've actually pretty much destroyed your project. So let's go ahead and get rid of that. We all agree that that's not really a good thing. It doesn't mean that it's a bug. I want to set something straight too, just in case there are new people watching this, that it's not that this is a bug with an actual problem. It's just that this is what I would consider a non-desired but fully functional intention of how it works. This is exactly how they wanted it to work. They just don't currently offer a workaround for people like us who are doing huge EDM records or classical mock-ups or huge orchestral mock-ups. You basically need a slightly older fashioned work style, which is the Cubase MIDI VST rack system, which in my other video you'll see actually works flawlessly with this. So at any rate, getting back to the other night, I had finally found that one of them actually will create a bus without having any association to your host whatsoever. So it's literally like creating an audio track or something. It actually has absolutely no association until you lock an association to it. And this is exactly what we need. And there's 2 ways immediately that you can do it. And one of them would be in your instrument window. In S1, you have all of your view filters, your visibility filters are all here. So you can show and hide all kinds of things. So here's our instrument one, and we bring it up. You'll see that I'm running one Vienna Ensemble Pro. If I right-click in this pane, you'll see I get very few options, but one is called Add Bus Channel. The other location is over in the actual mix window, in the mixer channel window. If you right-click anywhere in a blank pane, you'll see that Add Bus Channel is there as well. So let's go ahead and do it. It's going to give you the same no matter where you do it from, but watch what happens when I hit it. Notice how it threw it to the very, very end of your project. That's a very good thing that tells you right away that it has no association with any of your instruments, or it would have smacked it right in the middle of their output. So I'm going to go ahead and minimize this, and I'm going to go ahead and repeat this for each one of my sections. And for this demo, we will just do 5, and that one was the wrong kind if you were watching, and you can tell I hit the wrong one. Let's remove this because because when you're done with it, it leaves this last one highlighted. Because it's highlighted, your menu offers you many more options, and you don't want to hit this one. You want to keep repeating this one right here. So now I've got 5 of those, and let's give it a name. Violins 1, violins 2, violas, cello, basses. Now, these, obviously they're called buses, and pretty much, you know, that's what they're going to be called in any DAW. But for the purpose of this video, the workaround that I'm trying to do is a workflow that I did in Cubase. And so I'm specifically looking for a workaround to give me a, quote, group track. And so I'm working with this in the aspect that it's kind of acting like a group track for me. It's taking all of my individual sections like violins 1 and grouping them into one bus track. It doesn't have as much functionality, but pretty much. So now that we have this, let's go ahead and set our colors, because this is where it finally comes in that I don't have to get my colors all screwed up anymore. These are not my typical colors. It's just I've been doing these videos so much lately that I've become accustomed to just continuously picking these same colors. So here we go. What I have to do is, now you see these buses, I can still reproduce the bad behavior, just so you know, in case you make this mistake. I still can't go to the folder track and pick it, because when I do, it's still going to screw up the entire host. So that doesn't work. You can never touch these folder track busing systems up here if you're using multi-timbral hosting applications like VE Pro and whatnot, or huge contact multi-timbral, or if you do, it's going to bus them all to the same and make all their colors exactly in uniform with each other. So I have to come down here within Studio One's track mixer tracks and actually change it right here on the output. So I'm going to send these guys to violins. Now if you look randomly as I'm doing this, you'll see some popping going on every now and then. If you watch the meters, you'll see some popping. See that in the meters? See that popping? Now there's actually no sound, so don't worry. There's actually no sound or anything coming out, but it might alarm you when you see it. So now if you watch this, you're not going to hear anything because I've got the volume completely muted. But you can watch that as this entire orchestration kicks in. Look at how they are actually sending to my buses. So I know I've routed them right because there they all are. So the busing system so far that I've got set up is instrument tracks to group bus tracks. Okay, that's what we'll call them, I guess, for now. Now what I need to do to finish giving me the system where I am able to record my individual sections, not stems. I don't want to do stems. That's not the point of what I'm trying to do. I don't want one for one for one for one for one. I literally want all of these to be bounced down into one track within the project in real time at the same time. And the main reason is because, and I don't have one in here, but I can show you anyway, is I have a Bricasti M7, and I'll just create a dummy one. And I have this send, like this, would be Bricasti, on every single output, giving it a different level depending on the section, or, you know, LAS would require different than 8DO, which is much different than Dimension, which needs the most, because they're so dry. So at any rate, keeping that in mind, this forces me to do things in real time. So here's my effects channel. I can move this down here. And now what I can do is I now need my audio tracks that are going to listen to the output of these group bus tracks. So I'm going to come over here and I'm going to hit T. I'm going to call it Section Audio Mixdowns. I'm going to create 5 of them. I don't care about color or anything right now, so I'm just going to go ahead and hit OK. Now, what I can do is I can take these, I can rearrange these where I want them to be. Let me go ahead and put them at the end. And the reason I want them at the end, except for the effects channel, let's put it right there. One time. Now you'll see that it flipped this. That will only happen one time, but it does not move any of your instruments out of your project or anything. But it does move your folders just the one time. It doesn't pull folders out of folders or instruments out of folders, but it does move your folders below the audio tracks just one time. And then you notice it's in a perfect order. So my flow is now instrument to group bus to audio input, where I can then record it. So I would come in here and let's name these. Okay, now I can take all of these for organizational purposes, pack them in a folder, call these section audio mix downs, I guess. Call it whatever you want. Change this color, or whatever. Red, it's fine. Now, what I would do is I would go to each individual audio track and I would set its input to the group bus track that I want it to listen for. So my violins are going to play, violins 1 are going to play to violins 1 group bus track. When it's going out, I want it's going, you can see it's going out to main, but I want this guy to listen and record what it's hearing from that channel. So I'm going to change my input to input buses violins 1 and repeat this for all of my sections. Now, when I'm done with this, when I hit play, okay, you can see that right now you don't hear anything, and many of you who have done something similar to this know this, but for you new guys who don't know this, to actually get it to hear what's coming into it, you actually have to enable monitoring on that input. So we'll go to this audio track here, and if I either enable the monitoring directly or hit record, it will automatically hit monitoring. Watch what happens to it now. You'll see the flow is all the way from, and now you see it pegging now, because it's violins 1 pushing out to violins 1 group bus track, and then the group bus track is being listened to by this audio track on its input. So basically at this point, if I wanted to, with this workflow, the way that I work is, I will now solo this. When I solo it, you will notice that all of your buses are soloed, and that's okay, because they're actually not going to be playing or doing anything, which you're going to see as soon as I hit play. So you hit solo to, let's say, violins 1, and then I would have to come down to the audio section mix down and hit solo on that as well. Now when I do this, you'll notice that I'm only getting violins 1, so we're going to verify that first. There's violins 1 down there bouncing. Here's violins 1. We get no movement anywhere else. We've got our Bricasti per se here, and then we've got our audio track that's actually listening. So it looks like the whole flow chain is set up and ready to go. So what I would do at this point is, if I were trying to save resources, which is what this entire exercise is about really for me, is about saving resources. And what I would do at this point then is solo the violin 1s, get this ready, hit record, and now you'll notice in real time it's going to go ahead and record this for me. But the difference is it's recording in real time in one pass, every single track at one time. And the nice thing is, because I'm doing this in real time with all of my effects and plugins and whatnot, I'm actually getting the authentic sound that I'm accustomed to hearing. So it's already got all the processing and everything on it. And maybe that's not what you want, but the way that I work, because I work within Mirror Pro and I already have all of my plugins on my master bus and whatnot, I already have the pre-designed sound, the room sound and everything that I want. So it's actually exactly how I want it to sound. So I'm able to then, at this point, let's say, okay, it's done. We can now stop soloing violins 1 up here. I can just minimize this if I want. And when I hit play, again, you're not going to hear anything because I have the volume turned down. But you'll notice this time the only thing that's playing is the main output, because this track right here is the only one playing, and its output is main. So we're hearing nothing but an audio file, which would be the equivalent of your computer processing like an MP3 at this point. So your computer is basically going to be sleeping. So now, as far as reducing the resources now, you have a couple of options. Me personally, The only resource that I run out of is CPU. I don't run out of memory and I don't run out of hard drive and all of that. I run out of CPU. So I don't mind keeping my instruments in my project, at least for the moment, because at some point I might actually want to go back and make an edit. And so they'll still be there for me. But what I can do, since I'm done with violin 1 for the moment, is I can bring up the track list and I can hide violins 1 and they're gone out of my eyes. Now, I can do violins 2 and keep bouncing down and doing that. Now, you might be looking and saying, why doesn't that guy just do all 5 of them and be done? That's because, again, going back to the point that I've hit a brick wall of the limitations of this machine, because I've really increased the size of my orchestral sizes and tracks, especially because of like dimension strings from Vienna Symphonic Library and dimension brass and whatnot. I went from using, one section, say a Passionata, which is just going to be one track for violins 1, well, my violins 1 now could have anywhere between 8 to 16 individual dimension strings now. So the resource requirement is just, exponentially much more difficult now for the machine. Then you add the Mirror Pro processing, and it basically makes it absolutely impossible for me to bounce all of these sections simultaneously without the computer popping and clicking, or turning up the latency on your sound card to about 2048 or 4096, which I'm not going to operate at that level because it's just too much latency for me. So now let's see. So that's how you could go through and bounce to all of these and get them out of your eyes. And let's see. And then the other benefit of why I like this, I'm obsessive with being able to associate colors, as most of us are, it's not just me, with my tracks, just like, driving signs, you recognize it immediately because of its color. Red is stop. So the problem that I'm up against, again, because of this changing color stuff, it makes me a little obsessive. Once I have this workflow set up, though, I can easily simply hide them by going over here with the filter list. And when I turn off this or this, I can hide what it is that I'm looking at. I want to go ahead and keep my buses. This is buses if you hover and hold. I want to keep my effects. I do not want my instrument tracks. That's actually what annoys me. Assuming all of my mixing and all of my meters are set, I could always bring it back and adjust it. But for now, I'm going to get it out of my face because I can't stand that if I want to change the color of this track, that it will change my whole project. But now you'll see that as I do this, it only affects the one track and nothing down here follows that lead. But if you look, and I bring the instruments back, look at that. They followed it. And I just can't work with that. That it distracts me and kills my creativity. So this is how I, for the moment, plan on working around this until they either create us a, or should I say until they absolutely do create another style of work, or else I'm going to be forced to continue to use it over in Cubase. So I think that's just about it. If you have any questions or anything else, you want to see, just let me know, but I hope that helps somebody. See ya.